Okay, good evening and welcome to the Selectmen's meeting, Town of Acton, July 12th, 2012. First item on the agenda, salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, you gonna talk about Lorraine?
Talk about Lorraine?
Yep.
We'll start off tonight with some good news. Lorraine, as everybody probably knows, had a minor stroke, but she's back home now, and the doctor has agreed to give her a letter authorizing her to work as much as 5 hours a day, providing she feels good. So everybody will probably be very happy to see Lorraine back. It's been a little tough on the staff of the town hall while she's been gone because people have been doing double duty and triple duty and so forth. So everybody should be very happy that we'll have Lorraine back on Tuesday.
Yeah, without Lorraine here at our meetings, we've been doing the minutes from the videotape, and Jennifer's been doing a great job on that. We thank her, and all the other office staff have really stepped up with this big piece of the office being missing with Lorraine not being here. Okay, approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda.
Second, all in favor? Approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Second. All in favor? Old business, none. New business. Entertain a motion to go into the liquor hearing. Public hearing.
I move that we go into the liquor license public hearing.
Okay.
For
Second.
K&B Enterprises.
Second. All in favor? Okay. Anybody that wants to speak on about this license is welcome to come up here one at a time, and we'll go from there.
If I can just...
To the microphone, please.
Yes. I'd like to note something for the record before the public hearing starts, that we don't believe that there's currently a pending application for the board. I believe that you probably have a copy of some objections that we had sent to the town attorney on this issue, that we believe that the application was in fact denied and appealed on June 28th. We were told that there's going to be a public hearing, so we're here today. But I just want the record to be clear that we're not waiving any of our rights to object to these entire proceedings by being here today.
All right, thank you.
And I do want to speak for the applicant. However, I'd ask the board that I have some time reserved to respond to anything else that comes up in the hearing. So if you want the applicant to go first, I'd like to have some time at the end.
Yeah, we won't shut the hearing down until everybody that wants to speak has spoken, as long as it stays, you know, on track.
Yes.
We don't want to go where we went last time. If it goes there, I'll shut it down immediately, and
yes,
you won't get an opportunity to speak at the end. But as long as everybody just talks about the actual application and why it should or why it shouldn't be, and we keep on track, then we'll go as long as it needs to go.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Sure.
Brought here today. I brought 3, but I see one of your group is missing today.
Thank you.
Yeah, he had a obligation that he had before he got elected that he had to fulfill, so.
Anyway, this is just a submission of a few materials that we'd like the board to consider, and I'll go through the points of those right now. What we're asking, obviously, is for the board to renew my client's liquor license. Some things that obviously didn't come up before that I think the board should know. A little bit about the applicant. Obviously, it's a family-owned business. Involves Bill Palladino, who's here tonight, as well as his wife Karen, his son Chris. Bill has had 30 years now of working in the HVAC industry, also in the restaurant, food preparation, food distribution business. It's fair to say that the business he's built here now over the last decade at the former property owned by the Smiths, and now that he's running, is really his life's dream. and he's invested significant resources in this place and building this business up. His son, Chris, handles the kitchen himself. He's a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America. It's one of the top cooking schools in the country, if not the world. And the hope is someday Chris is going to be able to take over this business from his father, and that it's going to stay in the family. As I noted before, he's invested about $1.5 million in both purchasing and renovating the place. He's got 10 employees who all depend on this place for the revenue. In fact, he's continued to make it better. I note that 2 months ago, the planning board had approved an expansion over at that site with a specialty store, including beer and wine. And I think that's important also because if you look at the town's conditional use permit ordinance, section of the zoning ordinance, they have to make certain findings, including that it's not going to unreasonably disturb the neighbors with noise and other activities, that it's not going to have traffic problems. So the planning board made those findings really only about 2 months ago. I submit to you that it doesn't suggest that this place of business is any kind of public nuisance. The public nuisance part of this, I think that the board's heard. I think it's fair to say a lot of it relies on second, third-hand information, certainly not from unbiased sources. In fact, we don't believe that there's any public safety problem over there at all. There's been no evidence of that. There's no complaints by the sheriff or the state police here today. All you have is those calls for service. You'll see some correspondence that I've included in the package regarding that very topic. Also, I would note that in the board's decision, there was this perception that it's a clubhouse for a gang, but also put in there that's alleged. It's unclear what to make of this, but what I can tell you is this is what is going on over there. It's a restaurant. It's not just a bar. The clientele over there includes a lot of people that you would recognize from our local business community. And I'll get into that later. They do, this place not only is open to the general public, but it also does private functions. We're talking about office Christmas parties. Many businesses have their office Christmas parties over there, baby showers, wedding receptions. There's a letter in the file there from Elias Thomas, who recalls hosting a political event with Senator Collins at Mr. Palladino's restaurant. So I suggest to you that this is not some kind of seedy or rowdy place, and I think that some of the people there would be surprised if they were lumped in as part of a bad crowd. If you turn the back of that packet, the statements here that was submitted to my client by a number of people. Some of these people are residents of Acton, some are only summer residents, and some are just people who attend there and enjoy going there. Here's what Mr. Thomas had to say. It's recently come to my attention that KB Restaurant Enterprises has applied for a renewal of its liquor license from the town of Acton for the Shed Restaurant and Willie's Ale Room. I wish to express my complete support for the granting of the renewal of the liquor license, as well as the support of my entire staff here at Exit Key Real Estate. Over the years since the Palladino family has owned the facility, my family and I have enjoyed countless exceptional meals and have enjoyed the ambiance created in both venues. Not only do my wife and I dine at the Shed at least twice a week throughout the year, but we also have hosted a number of events at the Shed in the past several years. These include the following: a luncheon following the baptism of our grandson, which was attended by approximately 50 people, both from the greater Sanford area, as well as from metropolitan Boston and New York. Folks from away were impressed with the caliber of the restaurant facility, but even more so by the quality of the food selections. We also co-hosted an event for Senator Susan Collins, attended by many of the local business areas owners in the area. We've also hosted our annual holiday party at the Shed, among several other businesses. One of the aspects that draws us and many others to the shed, as well as to Willie's Ale Room, is the fact that both restaurants cater to all types of clientele, families, youngsters, seniors, and the like. Each summer, when folks return to their cottages and summer homes at the lakes, they return to the shed and the ale room for precisely the same reasons. The food is excellent, surpassed by no other restaurant in the area, and the environment is welcoming and safe. Each year, we enjoy meeting business owners from around the area, including the owners of YRL Accounting Group in Sanford, H.A. Mapes in Sanford, Central Tire in Sanford, Berube Construction of Acton, Arundel Market in Arundel, Kitchen by Hastings in Saugus, Massachusetts, as well as others who own property in Acton, including executives from Coca-Cola and former owners of a hotel in Ogunquit. If there is any question or doubt as to whether or not to renew the liquor license for KB Restaurant Enterprises, there should be none. Rather, there should be overwhelming support of the application, and approval should be granted without further delay. I submitted to you a bunch of other statements that, as you'll see, are similar in nature, and they come from a wide variety of clientele.
While you're on that, we received one today in support. We received one by email just before the meeting started.
Yeah.
Dear Selectmen of the Town of Acton, we have, huh?
It's in there.
Oh, you've got
Maybe
that
in
one?
there. Someone said that they were trying to email one as well.
Okay.
wanna continue.
We are property owners, but not full-time residents in the town of Acton. It has come to our attention that the liquor license for Willie's Ale Room is pending renewal. We'd like to comment on behalf of William Palladino regarding our experience at Willie's. We frequent this establishment on a very regular basis. We go for dinner every Wednesday and most Saturdays. We are a middle-aged couple who do not have a motorcycle and enjoy good food. We have been frequenting Willie's for at least 5 years. We have never been uncomfortable or experienced excessive drunken behavior. We bring our children and would not hesitate to bring our grandchildren if we had any. We have only experienced polite and professional behavior from the employees of Willie's. We also have never found it to be a per se gang hangout. Respectfully, Norman and Deborah Cloutier.
And I would note also in there, in the package, there's one from an executive who frequents this area who is involved with the big chains, including, looks like TGI Fridays, and he enjoys going up there, and he also hosts several other high-level restaurateurs. But I think more important for this and for the community is the local people who enjoy going there. And obviously in this area, we also depend on, all businesses are codependent on the seasonal crowd that comes in there. And it's a big attraction here for the area. Sorry.
No problem.
A few other issues that have been brought up. The issue involving the property taxes, I think, is important to point out a couple things on behalf of the applicant. First of all, the applicant is KB Restaurant Enterprises. The owner is actually an LLC. Obviously, Mr. Palladino is a member of the LLC along with some other people. However, the property taxes are obviously owed by that company. Mr. Palladino informs me, as a matter of fact, he made some installment payments on the property taxes, and obviously the landowner is working to get those caught up. I searched the registry because this issue had come up, and the liquor license application that was approved for Iron Tales back in April, I happened to notice that Mr. Hannon, who owns it, had a tax lien go on 6 days ago. So I think that the at 559 Route 109, so if I'm not mistaken, that's the property. There's a bunch of number of other properties. So I think that there's an issue there that the board has to consider about equal treatment, given the fact that the license application was approved in April, I believe, for that location. And now we're being, in my client's defense, this has come up now involving property taxes as a grounds for denying his application. I think more important than that is that the liquor license statute, it's not a vehicle for collecting property taxes. The town does have some very powerful vehicles for collecting property taxes. And I think in your position, you probably agree where it's rare where the property taxes are not paid and the property ends up getting foreclosed on. So the liquor license statute and what we're dealing with here is really not the proper forum for that issue to be addressed. Other issues are raised. This is a difficult one to deal with here. Issue raised with Mr. Palladino's character. From my client's perspective, I mean, what do we have to do to satisfy the town as to his character? I mean, this is something very difficult for him personally, to hear this. I mean, I think anyone who's familiar with what happened in March, in May regarding this prior public hearing, realizes, there were just some very vicious statements going back and forth here now. And Mr. Palladino sent the board an apology for the statements that he made at that hearing. And so you're considering his character. I think what standard are you going to judge future applicants on this? I mean, working 30 years and pursuing your life's dream to build this business, I mean, that's character. Standing up here and taking those type of assaults, hearing these, things posted on the internet and in the newspaper, I mean, that's character. And taking the steps to correct anything that the town has brought to his attention and try to make this work, make it work for him and for the town. I think that's, something the board needs to consider too. Okay. And I think the board should also be concerned for the way this has gone about and the precedent it's going to set for businesses in the town of Acton. What's it going to mean for others in the business community who watch this unfold and want to come in here? I mean, we're talking about public resources that may be spent with this, not to mention Mr. Palladino's resources, the resources of his company in this process that we're in, which obviously is going further and further and further along and could go out for a long time. And what's it going to mean for the people who depend on this place for their jobs? I think that can't be lost in the discussion that we're having today. The applicant, I think that from the materials, everything that the board has heard meets the requirements for renewing the liquor license. He's had it for 9 years. I think we can't lose sight of that fact. Prior owners had served alcohol for a long time there. That place has been there. I'm from a small town up north. All right, I could name you some rowdy and infamous places, but I've been here long enough that I recognize that this place is a place that's attended by your average person or family for dinner. Plus, you get your tourists that are in here, the seasonal crowd. It's important for the local area. So, based on that and him meeting all these requirements, we're asking the board again to renew the liquor license that he's had for 9 years. And again, I would like to reserve any time for a response for anything else that comes up.
I have one question before you go.
Yes.
You, maybe I misunderstood, but are you saying that Mr. Palladino does not own the property? You said, you
Yes.
mentioned KB, that's the restaurant.
KB Restaurant Enterprises
Right.
owns the property.
Okay.
Apple Ridge LLC, no. KB Restaurant Enterprises is the operating company that runs the restaurant. Apple Ridge LLC is a holding company, a limited liability company that owns the property. It's a common, when we set up businesses, it's very common.
Yeah, I know, I
Yeah.
have two. But my question is,
Yeah.
he is the owner of
He
the
is-
LLC, so
he
he is
is-
the owner of the land and
Yes.
is responsible for the
He-
property taxes.
Yes,
Okay,
he is a
that's clear.
member, he's not the only member, but he is a member of Apple Ridge LLC. We never suggested that he's not
Okay. I
involved.
just didn't want to misunderstand.
No.
He is responsible for the taxes ultimately. If the
Yes,
corporation doesn't pay for it, he is still responsible.
His company
Right.
is responsible, and if they don't pay it, they lose the property.
Okay.
Is there
That's all
any
I
other
had.
questions for me, or? Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Sure. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Tim Matthews. I'm a resident of Acton, and I've been going to Willie's for over 5 years now as a customer and an entertainer. My band has played there several times. I've gone in there countless times over the 5 years of my family, my children, my mother, my father, and never seen anything but a professionally run restaurant. As well as when my band has played there, it's been run completely professional, and I've never seen anything like what has been talked about go on there ever in my 5 years. I just wanted to come up and say
What kind of
that.
music do you play?
Cover music, country, rock and roll, that type of stuff. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis Long. I kind of thought the explanation about character of Mr. Palladino's attorney was kind of interesting. When you go through verbal abuse and different things in the town, and you keep going, how it shows that you have a lot of character. So I must be just full of character, personally. But anyway, as everybody knows, I have been against any establishment in this town selling alcohol. I always have been. I've been very boisterous about it. But doesn't mean that they don't have the right to do it. And I've sat where the selectmen are sitting now, and I've voted no and I voted yes. Because I do respect the fact that somebody has a right to make a living, and that restaurant has been there a long time, and I've never seen any negative signs out next to the road towards the citizens of the town of Acton. And I've been to many public hearings that Bill's been to, and once in a while, just like anybody, you get a little emotional, and sometimes you like to take back something you said. But for the most part, Bill has been nothing but very respectful to the town of Acton, up here at the town hall, and also the citizens of the town of Acton. So myself personally, I would hope that the selectmen would grant his liquor license when the appropriate time comes. Thank you.
Dennis? Anybody else?
Good evening.
Nick?
I'm Patrick Hannon, a resident of the town and a landowner here. That was some pretty interesting stuff that you just listened to. I think Bill brought out all the heavy hitters tonight to stand up for him. But
Let's keep it on track.
what was more interesting was the comments that his attorney had. I think I'll save those for intermingling into this. As you know, we've already been here once before, and I brought to the attention of the board that there seems to be a pattern of not filling out applications completely, maybe using abbreviated names or aliases or fictitious names on the applications. Changing your mind and coming back and changing the application. And what strikes me in reviewing this is that in 2009, if you look at Mr. Palladino's application for his liquor license, on the form, there's a question that asks, has or have the applicant or manager ever been convicted of any violation of the law other than minor traffic violations of any state of the United States? And I have a copy of Mr. Palladino's 2009 application here, and first, he checked off no. And this was at a time that I had had a conversation with the liquor inspector for this area, Larry Sanborn. And I had brought it to Larry Sanborn's attention that I intended to come to the Selectmen's meeting and tell him that I had information that Mr. Palladino did, in fact, have a conviction or several convictions. And unfortunately, Mr. Sanborn leaked that information to Mr. Palladino, and Mr. Palladino changed his application in 2009 to reflect yes, that in fact, he had been convicted on April 23rd of 2009. The offense, and this is in Mr. Palladino's handwriting, and I'm going to give you this book at the end of the night so that you have all of these pieces of paper that I talk about, so that no one can say that this isn't factual and true. And it asks, the day of the conviction was April 23rd, 2009. The offense was a NSF check for $500. And the location was Portland, Maine. They asked for the disposition of that bad check case, and Mr. Palladino writes misdemeanor. It's not what the question asks, and I don't think that a $500 insufficient funds check is a misdemeanor, but I'm not a lawyer. When you go on, anytime a corporation applies for a liquor license, there's what's called a supplementary questionnaire for corporate applicants. So the corporation has to answer questions as well as a private person. And it asks, the name of the corporation and the DBA name and the date it was incorporated, and it asks the owners. And in 2009, Mr. Palladino writes that himself and Karen Palladino each own 50% of the stock in the company, and that he's the president and she is the secretary. Then, on that same page of the supplemental questionnaire, it asks again, question number 8, has applicant or manager ever been convicted of any violation of the law other than a minor traffic violation? First indicated no. After talking to Larry Sanborn, switched to TS. Again, puts the date, NSF check, and for the offense, again, puts misdemeanor. For the disposition, which should be either guilty or not guilty, he puts paid. I'd suggest to you that you need to look into that. It doesn't, well, I'll get there. In 2010, Mr. Palladino submits another application. And his first application in 2009 is for the Shed Restaurant, KB Restaurant. And as you go through this, you see that it's incomplete. He doesn't put down how much food he sold. He doesn't put down how much liquor he sold. The names aren't complete. And now in 2010, Mr. Palladino's had a revelation, and question 13 have the applicant or manager ever been convicted of any violation of law other than minor traffic violations of the United States, any state of the United States, not just Maine? And I'd suggest to the selectmen that you have query authority, and I think that you have the right to check beyond the borders of Maine in your query authority. And based on what I'm seeing online, I think you need to check beyond Maine. When you get to the supplemental questionnaire, was never done. Didn't get filled out, wasn't required. He got a liquor license anyways. A very incomplete application for 2010. Then in 2011, again, no food numbers, no liquor numbers, and those numbers are important. There's a reason that they're on the application. Some establishments are required to sell a certain ratio of food to liquor. And other agencies like to look at these applications. It's a very good test of whether they're being told the truth. And if you put your food numbers and your liquor numbers down on this application, and the Department of Sales Tax looks at it and says, hey, wait a minute, this guy sold $500,000 in food, but only sold $200,000 in liquor. That's kind of backwards. That ratio's off. Is that number real? And that gives rise to people checking into your business. Again, in 2011, question 13, Mr. Palladino puts down, has he ever been convicted of any violation of the law other than a minor traffic violation of any state of the United States? No. 2009, he said yes. On his questionnaire, he puts down that he owns 100% of the stock in the company and that he's the president. Now, we don't get the benefit of that in 2010 because Mr. Palladino didn't submit a corporate questionnaire. So we don't get to see where that change in stock came from of the 50% to Mr. Palladino and 50% to Mrs. Palladino. In 2011, he says that he owns 100% of the stock, and it asks on number 6, what is the amount of authorized stock? He writes 100%. That's not what the question asks. The question asks how many shares of stock are authorized, and it asks you how many outstanding shares of stock there are. And there's a reason for that. When you have a liquor license and when you sell alcohol in Maine, you have to disclose any investors, any loans, any partners, all of that, and they have to become part of your licensing process. You couldn't just borrow money from, Joey Bag of Donuts and put it into your business. The state wants to know who's in your bank account. Last time I was here, I raised issues about the diagrams for the premises, 2009, 2010, 2011. They hardly exist. In 2012, Mr. Palladino submitted an application that I believe was the subject of his attorney's discussion at the beginning, that they somehow think, I don't know what they think. This application was inaccurate, incomplete, and at that time I raised the issue that he had put the numbers in for his food and his alcohol. And any business person knows that nothing comes out in even numbers. $660,000 even on food and $290,000 on alcohol. Very backwards. But what bothers me more is the even numbers. I raised that as an issue at that hearing. And listening to what Mr. Palladino's attorney had to say tonight, they did pay attention to what I had to say, and they've tried to counter some of that. But I don't think you'll be fooled by the end of my presentation. Again, in 2012, he says no to the convictions. He does fill out a supplementary questionnaire. He says he owns 100% of the stock. And on the amount of authorized stock, he again writes 100%. Not the correct answer. And again, a pitiful description of what his establishment is, as far as the drawing that's required by the state. The new application for 2012 that came in, that I think they referred to, and this is where Mr. Palladino listened a little bit. It's now KB Restaurant Enterprises Incorporated. That's the correct description of his business. And the business name is The Potting Shed. I haven't seen one sign at that business that says The Potting Shed. I see The Shed, Lounge, and I see Willie's Ale Room. I don't see The Potting Shed. And that'll be important for you folks in a couple of minutes. When you get to the amount of money that he took in for food, he took my advice. It's now $664,000.15. How did he get there? Come on, who's kidding who? Liquor, $291,000. Again, no convictions, nowhere. Nowhere in the United States, not any state in the United States, no convictions for Mr. Palladino. And then a premise diagram. Pretty good. Much better than the prior years, except it's missing the key element that's required by the state. And under the state regulations, they require that you distinguish where your liquor is stored. And the reason they want to know where your liquor is stored so that when they come to your place to look, they know right where to go the minute they walk in the door. When they're looking for out-of-state liquor or any type of violations of larger bottles being poured into smaller bottles to save money, they want to know right where to go. Now, on Mr. Palladino's last application, he had 4 dining rooms and a kitchen. That was his diagram. Now Mr. Palladino has 5 dining rooms and 1, 2, 3 bars. That's a big change from what was on the prior 2012 application. When you get to the supplementary questionnaire for your corporate applicants, it's now KB Restaurant Enterprises Incorporated, the Potting Shed Restaurant. William Palladino owns 100% of the stock. He's the president. And now number 6 says, what is the amount of authorized stock? 100 shares. That's what he's indicated. Not 100%, 100 shares. According to the state of Maine and the documents right here, this corporation was set up by Joe Lenkowski from Sanford on February 14th, 2003, and there were 1,000 shares of stock issued. Mr. Palladino is not telling you where the other 900 shares of stock are in KB Corporation. Because Mr. Palladino says that he owns 100% of the stock in KB Restaurant Enterprises, in order for that to be true, Mr. Palladino would have had to transfer the 50% of whatever stock Mrs. Palladino owns, but if he owns 100 shares, I can't imagine that she owns 900 shares and it's 50-50, but whatever stock Mrs. Palladino owned, and if the 100 is wrong and it's 500 and 500, whatever she owned it in 2009. And I understand that Mr. Palladino's attorney got up today and gave you a nice little swan song about what a great place this is and what a great businessman Mr. Palladino is and how it's family-owned and his HVAC business was so successful and he's invested significant resources and that someday he hopes that his son Chris will take this business over. Well, I hope he's told his son Chris about all the federal tax liens that are in my records here for KB Restaurant Enterprises, William Palladino, and Karen Palladino. And because these federal tax liens went into place in 2009 and would affect the transfer of Mrs. Palladino's stock to Mr. Palladino, I would suggest to the board that there probably has not been a valid transfer and that there may be a very good reason that you're not getting any paperwork about this. And if you think back to the last hearing, I brought this up. They haven't addressed it. And I think they haven't addressed it because they know they can't. They've picked a few easy things to address. Just want to find my note. Because of the federal tax lien that went in January of 2009, that lien attached to all assets and property of Mrs. Palladino. With the federal government having a lien on the stock, it was not transferable or saleable until the liens are released. It's pretty clear, and the liens are in here. And there's hundreds of thousands of dollars of federal tax liens. And these are not just, I didn't pay my taxes. These are, I withheld money from people's pay and didn't give it to the government. These are withholding taxes. These are 1040s and 6622s. He got the money, he just didn't want to give it up. For the sake of time, I won't take out all the tax liens and show them to you, but I assure you, they're here.
I would like copies.
I'm giving you the whole thing.
Okay.
I got them offline.
Oh, okay.
If you run a UCC search, which is Uniform Commercial Credit, you find every lien that everyone has. In order to perfect a lien, you need to file a UCC search. And that, I'll go there. Mr. Palladino's drawings, his new drawing, which is pretty good. It's a big improvement. Shows 5 dining rooms, 3 bars, 1 office, 1 kitchen, and a courtyard with no liquor storage. He absolutely refuses to show you where the liquor storage is, and I think that's a key issue. Mr. Palladino's attorney was right about something. Mr. Palladino did bring his corporations back into compliance as far as filing annual reports and paying the fee. I have those 2 documents here. However, and there's always a however, Mr. Palladino shouldn't be doing business today, tomorrow, or yesterday as Willie's Ale Room or the Shed Lounge. He's using fictitious or assumed names for those 2 businesses, and I'm sure his attorney knows this. The state of Maine has a form and a fee for using a fictitious or assumed name. And in order to be using those names, he would have to file a statement of intention to do business under an assumed or fictitious name. So, once again, Mr. Palladino's in here for a hearing, and things aren't right. He's operating illegally, and he's been operating illegally for years. And I submit that it hasn't been done because it costs money. And money is a definite issue. Federal tax liens. I heard something from Mr. Attorney, his attorney. I'll get to that in a second. The next thing, I raised this last time, and they skipped over it this time too. And I think it's because it can't be fixed. The state of Maine issued Maine Revenue Services issued a resale certificate to Mr. Palladino for KB Restaurant Enterprises doing business as The Potting Shed. Mr. Palladino is not doing business as The Potting Shed. I would suggest to you again, at this second hearing, that Mr. Palladino has problems with his resale certificate. I love this one. Mr. Palladino, he's a funny guy. Mr. Palladino submitted, because when he went to the planning board for his special permit, there was a lot of discussion, and I heard Elias Thomas's name a lot tonight. And Elias Thomas's name comes up in the minutes of the planning board meetings, and I'll get to that in a second. It's kind of interesting how things change. But the planning board and the people that went there were concerned that this character of this Potting Shed restaurant that the Smiths worked so hard to build and was an asset to the town of Acton and was a really nice place, that was going to be changed by serving alcohol. And it was going to be changed by having entertainment. And it was suggested that the servers and the waitstaff and the bartenders needed to be certified and trained in how to serve alcohol properly. And one of the conditions of Mr. Palladino's special permit was that all of his employees be certified. And I'll submit to you that I have copies of the 7 certificates of completion for tips on premise 2.0 that Mr. Palladino submitted with his second application. I blew that application up to 150%. And you'll get this. On the bottom, it clearly says, this document is not proof of tips certification It simply states that you completed the course. Doesn't say you passed it. It's not a certification, right on a certificate. He's giving you more worthless paper. He should have given you the certificates. Now, when you examine these certificates, you would think that the program that generates these, and this is an internet, over the internet, from home program. If you look at it close, Ted, you can see it.
Yeah.
You would think that that program, when it printed out a certificate, would print them all in the same font. Look at the certificates. The fonts are different. Some are bold, some aren't. And when you get to one of them, I actually had to laugh. This is very funny. This is a certificate purportedly for Amy Greenhalgh. I can tell you that it's Amy Greenlaw, because Amy Greenlaw worked at Big Daddy's. And she either spelt her name wrong on her certificate when she signed up for it, or maybe somebody took the test online and didn't know how to spell Amy's name. Maybe none of these people took these tests. I think that needs to be looked into. But you certainly have no official proof with this application that these people are tip certified. Next, he gives you 7 certifications. I heard his attorney say there were 10 employees. They give you 7 certificates. I had somebody in my office do a schedule for those 7 employees that are certified, if those are all of his employees, because all of his employees are supposed to be certified. So I had someone in my office do a schedule of what those 7 employees would have to work if they worked the hours that whatever the restaurant name is open. It's a total of 448 hours for the week for 7 people to split up. And if you have, I can't remember how many bars there were. If you have 3 bars, you must have to have 3 bartenders. So you have 3 bartenders in order to cover the 3 bars. And this is hypothetical, but you need to look at it this way. You need to look deep into what this guy submits to you. He's a master of disguise. Those people would have to work 70 hours each, those 3 bartenders. And then you'd have 4 servers to wait on 5 dining rooms. And I've gone by plenty of nights, and there's a lot more people's cars in that parking lot and a lot more people in that place than 7 people can wait on. I'd submit to you that there are a lot more than 7 people working there, and that you need to ask Mr. Palladino for proof of his payroll, proof of his workman's comp, and ask him for canceled checks for his last 4 pay periods. You know, let him prove to you who works there and who they are, and that he really does these things. Because I'm told, and I understand it's hearsay, but we're not in court, I'm told that most people are paid under the table. And when you get to the tax liens, that would be a very good reason to pay somebody under the table. More amazing, and I thought they were doing pretty good, but the planning board, in their issuing the conditional use permit, put a specific requirement in here that the manager would be tip certified. Okay, the change to his 2012 application, second time around, says that Christopher Palladino is the manager. No tip certification. No ticket, no laundry. Another missing key element of what's required by the town to approve this liquor license tonight. And next, Mr. Palladino's attorney put some real lipstick on this one, with a cause for service for the sheriff's department. Nothing substantial. Let me read my note. It was really good. He said in his explanation to the board, and you should be insulted, because I was, that the nuisance information that you got was second and third-hand info. I wrote that down as he said it. That's my note right here. I have here, from a Freedom of Information Act request, a report from the Sheriff's Department, from a Matthew Baker, Chief Deputy Sheriff, York County Sheriff's Office, May 8th, 2012. It lists over 17 calls for service. It's not second or third-hand information. It's right from the horse's mouth. Nothing serious, I think he said nothing serious happened there. No problem at all. No complaints by the sheriff. Really? The town took exception to Big Daddy's having 3 calls for the sheriff. This place has had 17 calls for the sheriff. A larceny, forgery, fraud, intoxicated person, stolen vehicle, motor vehicle accident, assist another agency, motor vehicle accident, assault in progress, 2 units required. First-hand information, not second and third. Disturbance, another 2-man call. Not one sheriff, 2-man call. Another disturbance, 2-man call. Oh, another disturbance, 2-unit call. 1, 2, 3, 4 times the sheriff was called, and 1 unit could not handle what was going on at that location. 2 units had to respond. Are there that many sheriffs on duty in York County that you can tie up 2 sheriffs to go to this place 4 times in 1 year? I doubt it. Unfortunately, the state police seemed to have trouble with their paperwork and indicated to the town that they had no calls for service at that location. I really find it hard to believe that it only happens when the sheriff's on. Seems interesting. I heard Mr. Palladino's lawyer give you a little speech about Mr. Palladino's character and his 30-year dream of building a business, and that's his character, and that he's treated the town with respect. And even Mr. Long said that Mr. Palladino's been respectful of the town in his experience, and I don't know. Here's a letter from the town treasurer. Potting Shed Restaurant, notice of dishonor. You're hereby notified your check number 7083 in the amount of $2,000 has been submitted for collection. You bounced a check. Another one. You're hereby notified your check 1509, 37628 drawn on 5 county credit has been submitted for collection. It bounced. Another one. You're hereby notified your check number 7665 for $400 drawn on TD Bank has been submitted for collection. I hope you didn't get a check. And then you're notified that your check 2842 in the amount of $85. $85 to the town of Acton, and the check bounces. $85. That's respect. And every one of those is respect for the town of Acton. And I'd submit to you now, and I'm not asking you to answer me, but if Mr. Palladino came in tomorrow for anything that required money, you would not accept his check at this town hall. Yet, this man wants to sell alcohol in the town of Acton. He can't even be responsible enough to write a good check to the town for $85. Absolutely disgusting. So, in making a decision on whether to issue a new license, the selectmen need to consider the past operations of the establishment. Merely introducing a new manager does not change the day. Bounce checks to the town to the point that the town won't accept a check from Mr. Palladino. Not at all. High volume of calls for fights and disturbances. Mr. Palladino's attorney must have a different place in mind. We have the report. Intentional omissions of information on the applications to avoid compliance. And what that means is by operating as the Potting Shed Restaurant on a seller certificate, and this is a hypothetical situation, but you could buy food and alcohol and sell it at Willie's Ale Room and sell it at the Shed Lounge and not have to report that income. You can disguise your income for the Shed Restaurant, you can disguise your purchases, you could buy your materials for Willie's Ale Room under Willie's Ale Room, and you could buy your materials for the Shed Lounge under Shed Lounge. The state has no way of knowing that you made those purchases. And the reason for the reseller certificate with the correct name on it is so that the state, if they want to, can go to your vendors and verify your purchases. And based on your purchases, there's a formula that will tell them how much money you should be reporting to them and whether or not you're playing games. Mr. Palladino and his corporations owe hundreds of thousands of dollars to creditors, from the federal government right down to the poor plumber that installed the septic system and got stiffed for $15,000. Jim Landry, local guy, nice guy, I sold him a boat. In this package, you'll find that Jim Landry died without getting paid, and that Jim Landry's widow had to go and take Mr. Palladino to court. And there's an attachment, there's a writ of attachment, there's a judgment, and she owns, by right, or has a legal claim to every asset and every bit of inventory in that property. Now, we just heard his attorney tell us how much money he's invested. He's invested $1.5 million, and he continues to make it better. But he doesn't pay anybody, not even the widow. He doesn't give her $1. That's the character of Bill Palladino. That paperwork's in here. It's not secondhand, it's a fact. He seems to think that selling alcohol is a right, and it's not. The town has a right to make that a privilege, and to operate an establishment that sells alcohol absolutely is a privilege. And I'd submit to you that Mr. Palladino has abused that privilege beyond your wildest dreams. And I'd submit that you, folks, as the selectmen, you have a responsibility to protect the residents of the town of Acton, taxpayers of Acton, and the people who come and visit our town. You heard Mr. Palladino's lawyer tell you about all these people who come here for the summer, and they love the establishment, and it's great. They're in big trouble the minute they walk in the door. He couldn't pay for one thing if someone got hurt in that place tomorrow. There's no insurance, he's got no money, he's got federal tax liens, he's lying on his applications. This is a sham, this is a house of cards. And if the wind blows strong enough, that house is coming down. He's still there, he's building this boutique store. Why did he pay his bills? Forget about the store. Pay some bills, pay the people that you owe. Jim Landry's wife could use the money, I'm sure. She didn't plan on her husband dying without getting paid for this job. Because of the condition of his corporation and because of his financial situation, the public's at risk. You have servers in there serving alcohol that aren't certified, aren't trained. You've had numerous calls for the sheriff, multiple car calls. That's because people are being overserved and things get out of control. Tom Thomas went there a long time ago. Tom Thomas was concerned about acoustical music and amplified music. I'm not going to take your time tonight to read you the approvals from the planning board. It's all in there. This has graduated from, we just want to be a nice little place and serve some wine and have Bloody Marys on Sunday, to America's Got Talent on Friday night with, rock bands and 500 people in the place. That's not what was envisioned by the town, that's not what was envisioned by the planning board, and it's certainly not what they approved, but it goes on. When the public enters a licensed establishment, there's an assumption made by that person that the town and state are regulating that establishment. And that establishment has qualified people working, the company's qualified and able to do business, has insurance, and meets safety standards. Mr. Palladino's corporations are broke. He's acting desperate. The public's not safe at his establishment. If a customer injured on site, they could never recover $1 of their expenses. No one has recovered any money from this guy. And there's other people in here that he owes money to. The plumber wasn't the only person. As for the change in management, what's he going to manage? He's, as you heard from Mr. Palladino's attorney, he's the chef. He's in the kitchen all night. He's got some responsibility there. He's not out on the floor. He can't manage the establishment. And I'd submit to you that nothing's changed, and that, you know, Christopher Palladino is just a pawn in this game of chess. And Bill Palladino is playing chess with you and everyone who walks into his establishment. The problems and violations at Mr. Palladino's establishment won't change with management. It's a culture. It's what the bar became. You're not going to change it. I heard, I was actually very glad Mr. Palladino's attorney went first. He mentioned a clubhouse for gangs. I think it'd be pretty safe to say that there aren't many restaurants, family restaurants that you go into, and there are motorcycle members there that are wearing vests with patches on the back that say Diablos, MC, Maine. The Diablos is a national organized motorcycle gang, similar to the Hells Angels, Outlaws, Mountain Men, nationwide, not statewide. They have frequented Mr. Palladino's establishment. They do frequent Mr. Palladino's establishment. And I think it's a shame that his attorney would get up and tell you to your face that that's not so. I think the town has prior information about the state police concern of motorcycle activity at Mr. Palladino's establishment. He talked about how Mr. Palladino doesn't own all of Apple Ridge LLC, but he never did tell you who the other people are. He kind of got around by saying Mr. Palladino's a member. Well, in an LLC, there's a member and there's a manager. If you look up the corporate records, Mr. Palladino's the member. It doesn't tell you that there's any other people involved. I'd ask the town, if you go any further with this, to ask the question. Maybe he's going to get up again and talk to you, and you can ask him the question. I'm sure he wants to tell you that everything I've told you isn't so. The property taxes. Property taxes didn't matter when I came for my liquor license. I pay my property taxes when I have to pay them, but I do that for a different reason. And some people in the town offices understand the reason that I do that. But I pay the interest, and it's a lot of money. The town makes a lot of money off of my real estate taxes. I pay about $41,000 a year in taxes to the town of Acton. I got it back sending 4 kids to school, but still, I pay between $41,000 and $44,000 a year in taxes here in the town of Acton. Mr. Palladino's lawyer brought up this great story about, you know, how shutting this business down would be a discouragement to new business and people who want to open a business in Acton. Is there a line at the planning board for people to open a new business in town? That's you know, just not happening. That's a fallacy. And for all the claims of how much good these bars do for the town, they don't do any good for the town. And there aren't a lot of people in these bars that are from town. Wakefield, New Hampshire, Rochester, New Hampshire, Lebanon. It's slowed down now that they have a bar. Some of those people are staying closer. But that's just not true and shouldn't be considered by the board. As far as the 30-year dream of building a business, it's built a disaster. How do you dig out of all of these liens and levies and lawsuits? And in today's climate, no one's making any money. You're not going to get any further ahead. I'd submit to you that, you know, basically they're just putting a spin on everything and hoping that you buy it, as previous boards of selectmen have bought it. I give you credit for not buying it last time, and I hope you won't buy it. And I'd like to ask that you deny this application based on the facts presented to you in regards to Mr. Palladino's character. You know, last time we were here, and his lawyer touched on it, and I hate to bring it up, but I have to. I came to this meeting because in 2009, Mr. Palladino got up and spoke about my character and how I ran my business, and talked about what a great businessman he was, and that perhaps I should follow his lead as a star businessman in town. Interestingly enough, Mr. Palladino got arrested outside right after that hearing for bad checks by the sheriff. Put him in handcuffs and took him away. And finally, the most telling thing of just what this man thinks of the intelligence of the Board of Selectmen is his letter that he writes with his 2012 application. This will be the last thing I say. There's plenty more in here. I hope you'll take it all as evidence of the issues. Just because I haven't said it tonight doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's in here. I'm giving it to you as a record. But here's his letter that he wrote to the town for his 2012. It says, I, William Palladino, am formally requesting a waiver of hearing of my liquor license. Under Maine Law 653 Hearings, Bureau Review, Appeal 1995 C-144 Amendment. This is a guy that told you that he was tough with paperwork and couldn't remember to file his application to renew his corporations, but he's citing the law and doing a pretty good job here. And it says, this request is based on KB Restaurants holding a state of Maine liquor license for a period of 9 years without a legitimate complaint being filed with the York County Sheriff's Department. Nothing's legitimate, according to Mr. Palladino. He's perfect. It makes no mistakes there. The Maine State Police nor the Maine State Liquor Licensing Inspection Unit. The Shed Restaurant has displayed the utmost in responsibility in operating its business in all accordance with the laws set forth by the state of Maine, except I let my corporations get canceled, I'm using a bad resale certificate, I've got all these federal tax liens, I pay my help under the table. Those things don't matter. The sheriff's been here 17 times in 1 year. That's not legitimate. And it goes on to say, this record should not be tarnished by any non-qualified complaints or questioned by such. Don't question Bill Palladino. This is unbelievable. I would expect the town of Acton would follow this ruling and privilege set forth by this law. When Tony Colagrando and Dennis Long were here, maybe that stuff flew. And
Easy,
I,
Pat. Easy.
Yeah,
hey, Uncle Denny,
Don't get personal.
no personal.
I'm not being personal. I'm making a statement. They approved his liquor license the day that he applied for it. He applied for it on June 4th, 2010. They gave it to him on June 4th, 2010. And that's the reason there was no questionnaire. They didn't look at a thing. Here you go, buddy. Have a good time. It's the good old boy system. Please deny his license, and thank you very much.
This is just a quick comment. When Bill Palladino's license was granted, when I was selectman, there was 3 selectmen there, not just 2, not just ones that certain business owners in town had an agenda with. There's 3 there, and they all 3 signed it, and they all 3 approved it. And at that time, the code enforcement was very involved in Mr. Palladino's building down there, and the fire marshal. And we did look at the application, the 3 of us, and we didn't have the public hearing because it wasn't required by law. And according to the code enforcement and the fire marshal in the state at the time, any information we had, everything was brought up to, met town standards, state standards, and all fire codes. So I just want on record that regardless of the accusations, there was nothing done illegal. And the other thing, which is a misstatement, I'm not questioning whether or not Mr. Palladino owed Jim Landry some money. I have no knowledge of that one way or the other. But I do know It's a misstatement when it was said that Jim Landry put in Mr. Palladino's septic system, because that is absolutely not true. It was Gerd and King Construction that put in a septic system, and it was not Jim Landry. Jim Landry was a plumber. He did not, he wasn't in the excavation business. He didn't put in septic systems, leach fields, and things like that. Thank you.
Yeah, if we're going to argue that point, then I don't want to hear it.
One quick point. Mr. President would like to respond to all this.
I agree that it wasn't illegal, but it was improper to issue that license. But the point I forgot to make, and the most important point about Mr. Palladino's character. At that hearing, I gave a lot of information. And if you remember, Mr. Palladino got up and took the podium and got up and said that he wanted to thank me for giving all that useless information, and that I'd spent a lot of time. And that perhaps if I spent more time with my son, he would not have died of a drug overdose. My son died a little over a year ago of an asthma attack, 37 years old, a very serious thing. That's the character of Bill Palladino. That's as low as it gets. That's your guy.
Thank you, Pat. All right, before you come up, is there anybody else that wants to speak to this?
Hi, my name's Gail Bourvier, resident of Acton. I just wanted to say for several years, probably 4 or 5 years, I go up at least weekly to the restaurant with other women, and we have a great time. We have good food. We're always treated with the utmost respect. I've never noticed anything out of the ordinary or suspicious activity or characters unbecoming of some place I'd want to frequent. They have good food. The people are nice. The waitresses are excellent. And I've never had, if anything, if there's a single thing wrong with something we order, it's corrected immediately. So I just want to say I've been going there for 5 years on different days, Wednesdays, weekends, and we enjoy it. And we see a lot of families. We were there last night, some girlfriends of mine, and there was a family with a little 2-year-old baby. I mean, it's a family atmosphere. It's not, maybe on the weekends we have bands and stuff, it'd be a little less younger kids there. But I have never seen anything that would concern me and make me uncomfortable. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to correct both Dennis and Pat. Gern put the driveway in. My dad did the septic system. My dad was paid for the septic system. I don't know the Landry deal. I don't want to get into that. I find it hard to believe that we ought to be all sitting up here going through everybody's finances and what this and that and everything else. It's a lot of personal attacks here. I'm not frequent at Willie's, but I go there now and then when I go for a motorcycle ride here and there. And I heard statements about the Diablos and this and that. And I ride all over New England. We take rides, we go hundreds of miles, and we stop at different establishments all over the place. And you know when there's a bike group in your bar. And I've been to some bars where I felt very uncomfortable being there because of the Hells Angels, the Mountain Men, you name them, there's so many of them. Watch Spike TV, they have Gangland, they'll tell you all about them. But all the times that I've been to that bar, at Willie's, I've never seen a Diablo. And I would recognize them because I've seen these people all over. I think we might be overstating how involved these people are with these bars. And coming from a person who owns an establishment right down the road that has the same clientele that rolls through them. Owns the building of the establishment.
Talk up here.
And I guess where I'm getting here, I didn't want to speak on this, but when we started talking about who's owed money and this and that, and there was a little, I think, even by just saying this person did this job and he didn't do the job, I think a lot of the stuff that's coming out here might be just a little personal and just may not be documented quite as well as maybe he thinks it is. I know who put that septic in. I helped do that septic system up there.
Okay, we're not here to
I just think.
discuss our septic system. or-
Yeah, I know. I just think it's kind of these personal attacks where just some of this information might be misconstrued just a little bit. I think overall, I think this has given both bars a bad rap when we have a meeting to this magnitude and getting into people's personal lives this far, and I don't think it's good for the town of Acton.
Pat, I think we've heard enough. I don't want to get back and forth now, because that's what I'm seeing now, is it's getting back and forth.
You have my book right there.
Yeah, well,
It has the liens for Jim Landry in it. Don't let anybody tell you that I don't know what I'm talking about,
Yeah,
or
we're
I
gonna
may
we're
not
gonna look
have.
at all the information
Mr.
before we
Winchell's
make
a
our
specialist
decision.
on everything.
We just wanted to hear from
Yeah.
everybody tonight, but thank you, Pat.
All right, I'll be very brief. If I can, I'd like to bring Bill up here, because I might ask him some questions. He might need to say something, and it'd be easier for both at the microphone here. So, Bill, if you can just come up for a minute. First of all, if there's anything the selectmen would like clarification on in the application form, we can address that right now. He can point out where the liquor's stored. Where is the liquor stored?
Behind the bar and the liquor cabinets.
Okay. I mean, I don't know that on the drawing it says where the liquor's stored, but that's where it's stored. Okay. With regards to numbers with sales and things like that, I think I don't think that the town, that's beyond what you're considering here today. I mean, if there's going to be a sales tax audit or something, that's going to be done by Maine Revenue. You submitted one application that had no food or alcohol
Yeah,
sales on it.
in that year, the Commissioner's office actually sent me back the application because the supplemental form was missing and the food and alcohol numbers were missing. And we had to fill it out and send it back to them. Also, in conversation with Inspector Sanborn, those numbers are as approximate and rounded off as you can get. It's not something that you need to spend hours doing bookkeeping. Those are his words.
So I think that there, we've got a situation where probably these things are what gets looked at the Liquor Commission level. I don't know, I certainly don't think that the town, probably in the past, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't imagine that you've had a situation where you're asking the applicant to supply all these payroll records or, open his books for the town to review, and I don't think the town wants to go there. Do you use it, you said you use a payroll service?
Yeah,
I mean,
we do. We use PayChoice as the payroll service. I know Mr. Hannon indicated everybody would have to work, 8,760 hours or something like that. I forget the number. Unfortunately, the part that we're not recognizing is that we're not open during the day. Number one, we're closed on Mondays. There's only one dining room open 3 days. I'm going to make this statement. Let me think about it. There's one dining room open that's only Tuesday, Wednesday, and sometimes Thursday nights. There's only one dining room that opens up at 4:30 and closes anywhere from 10 to 12:30. There's two of the other dining rooms are open. Again, nothing opens before 4:30. One of the dining rooms closes at 10 o'clock even on Friday and Saturday night. So I guess if we're going to calculate hours, if we want to sit down with a pen and pencil and look at people's work schedules, we could probably do that, but I don't understand, I don't see where that comes into play in any of the criteria with the liquor commissioner.
Obviously, Mr. Palladino regrets that he bounced checks. I mean, he's paid the checks that bounce to the town. He regrets that it's happened, and he's going to make sure it doesn't happen again. With regard to the answer on prior application regarding a check charge, Bill, tell us what you had found out about that charge and the role of the Liquor Commission in this.
All right. I was very unclear. First of all, being a sloppy person, I guess bookkeeper up there, because I don't have a lot of time to be there, has created some of the issues that we have had up there. The issue over the conviction actually was brought to Larry Sanborn's attention by me, because I didn't know how to handle it. It actually is a dismissed charge. There's no conviction on the record. Larry Sanborn himself looked into it 4 years ago or 3 years ago. I was just unsure how to answer the question on the application.
What else did I have? Oh, bunch of statements regarding IRS. What's your status right now with the IRS?
Issues with the IRS could be totally unrelated to this business up here. The IRS, any liens that were placed by the Internal Revenue have all been discharged almost probably over a year ago at this point in time.
You work out
We
a
have,
payment
yeah,
plan?
we have
or-
copies of all the discharges. Again, you know, it's just getting into the personal stuff as much as we can to try to.
All right. Concern about liability. Are you, is the business insured, business premises insured?
Of course it is.
All right.
The business has a multi-million-dollar liability policy, a fire policy, a workers' comp policy. It has all the insurances it needs to have to be in place.
The,
Again, if I need to provide insurance certificates to anybody, but again, it's not part of the criteria that I need to provide.
Do you have to send a binder to the state?
No, I do not. I don't.
Good to know.
But I do have to send a binder to the people that hold the mortgage on the property.
that is true.
Okay.
The property's mortgaged.
Yeah.
And their name is insured.
Okay, yeah, because if you didn't pay it, then they would put insurance on and send you a bill for it, yeah.
Just one minute here. With regards to the calls for service, touch on this last time. If you look, there's 17 calls. I don't see anything in here talking about any kind of arrests at any of them. A number of them are motor vehicle accidents, as I explained to the board last time in talking with Sheriff Willett. Anything that happens within a designated area between the mile markers gets coded to this location. And of course, if anyone calls it in as being near the shed, that's where it's going to be. Some of these were called in by Mr. Palladino himself or members of his employees to take care of someone. You mentioned someone that was intoxicated, and you called it in yourself to the police.
And let me just explain that. There was an incident where somebody drove to the restaurant to pick up an order of food to go, and the man stumbled in across the door, and obviously we couldn't let him leave, so I personally called the sheriff's department.
And as I did mention to the board before, the sheriff indicated to me that if he had a major problem with this place, he'd alert the town. He has gotten involved in it in the past. He sent in prior liquor applications. We're not discussing prior liquor applications, but he has, involving a different applicant. He did get involved in it, and he didn't see a major problem in it. So he supplied the information requested by the town, and I think that's all that's in front of you. It's just a list of calls, and he didn't see any major problem that he reported to me. Obviously, he hasn't communicated anything directly to the town one way or the other on this application, because he told me basically just, he doesn't have an opinion on the application. He doesn't object to it.
He said he doesn't have an opinion either way.
Yes, he said he doesn't have an opinion either way. He's not objecting to it, is what he said. All right. I don't, the motorcycle club thing, I think you've heard enough on that issue. I do. The only thing I point out is, I think it would be very difficult for anyone to say to a business owner, you can't let this person in here because he's associated with this particular group. I mean, he can't refuse to serve someone. But I think you've heard enough. It makes it clear it's not a clubhouse of any particular group. I mean, it's a business that's open to the general public.
What about the motorcycle accident that happened after your last public hearing?
The motorcycle accident that happened after the last public hearing was investigated by Trooper Kevin Strout, who I spoke with as well. He indicated that it was a motorcyclist from New Hampshire, Mr. Hebert. Oh, probably should have. I don't know if you want to be dragged into this. Who was driving, which way are we talking about? West?
They put down westbound, but it was.
Westbound, okay. Westbound and lost control of the motorcycle. and basically dumped it near the driveway. He may have been turning in, we don't know. Either way, he wasn't at the establishment, he was on his way there. Or at least you guys weren't aware of him being there.
No, he wasn't
Yeah,
there. He
okay.
was,
He was
I
taken.
need a copy of the report.
I have the police report, but it's not. He was taken by private vehicle to the hospital. He wasn't even there when Trooper Stroud arrived, and he spoke with the driver's family afterwards and learned that he was being treated at the hospital. That's it. He told me that was the extent of his investigation. He didn't have anything that said it was involved with the restaurant anyway. It's where it happened. So that, I know that wasn't raised at the last hearing or anything like that, but I do know that that was at some point submitted in a communication to the board, so we're happy to address that point.
Is that report in your package?
No, it's available. All accident reports are available on the State of Maine crash report. You're the owner of the stock? All right.
Yes.
Karen, do you know if she's maybe joint tenancy? She may be joint tenant on it, but he's the owner of the stock. I mean, if the town requires corporate records to that degree, we can provide them. Who's the other members of the LLC?
James Bonang.
Your brother-in-law?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Karen.
All right, and Karen. Okay, so it's his brother-in-law and his wife. Again, it's in the family. I note that he could have applied as an individual for this application. Corporate form's not required to hold an license or operate a business. He does it for the reason that many people incorporate. I don't think the board needs to hear anything on the Landry dispute. It was a dispute. Landry, you said it was a disputed bill. They dealt with it in court. I mean, that's not an issue in front of the board right now.
Sheriff's report, how Frank calls, come in, they call the restaurant to see if everything's okay.
Okay, you said, well, Bill, why don't you tell me, you said that you had been contacted with...
There's been many occasions where nobody knows who, but a prank call can be made to the sheriff's department saying there's knife fights or there's gang fights in the back parking lot. The sheriff's department has literally called back the restaurant because they're suspecting by the tone in the conversation that the call's a prank. And they always send a car up anyways just to double check, but they call and specifically ask if there's any of that activity going on. And that's probably happened twice in the last 12 months. Where the dispatcher literally just calls back right away to find out if there's an issue.
I have nothing further unless the board has any questions for us. Thank you, gentlemen.
I'll entertain him. You want it? Okay, one more? And we got to close down because we still got a lot more business to do tonight.
Yes, my name's James Crowley. I am the owner of the property in the same parking lot as Mr. Palladino. Incidences in the parking lot since I've dealt with Mr. Palladino taking over the property from our family. I've never had any problems. I've never been notified by the sheriff's department. There was problems in our parking lot. Our parking lots are fully covered with security cameras from my restaurant, completely covering the parking lots, the front door of the Willie's Air Room. It's been that way now for over a year. We've had no problems, no requests for anything. The sheriff's department knows that I do have surveillance going on in there. Nothing's ever come about it. Mr. Palladino and I's business relationship has been I wouldn't say it's totally excellent, but it's a good business relationship. We talk back and forth. We run our parking lots. I did have a problem with motorcycles. I went to Mr. Palladino with the motorcycle issue. We discussed it. We took care of it. Mr. Palladino has always been upfront with me. In reference to everything that Mr. Hannon has said, I sat here tonight. I wasn't going to come up here tonight because I just feel that this is over the years, has become a Hatfield and McCoy type of a feud going on. Mr. Palladino, excuse me, Mr. Palladino and Mr. Hannon have been feuding for many, many years with his signs down the bottom of the hill. This is something that I hope the board takes into consideration, the Hatfield and McCoy type feuds. Hopefully this feud will stop because this town, as good as it is, will really hurt from this feud going on. Mr. Palladino has put a lot of time, a lot of effort into his building. He spent a lot of money, and I think there's a lot of people in this room that will say what Mr. Palladino has done to that building has been first class. He runs a first-class business. Has Mr. Palladino always been 100% on top of things? No. But there isn't a person in this room that can say that they're 100% on top of things. He's a hard worker. I have some dealings with Krabby Bear Restaurant in my establishment there. So I'm kind of a competitor of Mr. Palladino's. We basically serve food, and we have no problems working together. We do have a beer and wine license. We sell food. We sell dinners now. And there's plenty of business for both of us to be had, and we have to work together. And we've worked together for a number of years. And I would really feel that it would be a shame that this town would take the liquor license away from Mr. Palladino just because of a Hatfield and McCoy fight that's been going on for many years. Because by doing that, you're ruining a man's livelihood, and he's put everything he's had into this building. And I'd hate to see anybody lose their life's work. If there's problems with the Internal Revenue Service, the state of Maine, that's for the state of Maine and the Internal Revenue Service to deal with Mr. Palladino. It's not up to us to deal with that in this setting. So I guess I'm saying that, do I like a nightclub with motorcycles as a homeowner that's down the road with motorcycles going by my house at 90 miles an hour? No, I don't like it. But it's not Mr. Palladino's problem. It comes with that type of establishment. Down the bottom of the hill, there's the same problems down there that there is up here. Motorcycles going down. I've called the sheriff's department, I've called the state police in reference to the motorcycles going by the house. Doesn't do a bit of good. You know, you ask them to come up, they stopped at the house, the state police have stopped at my house. It doesn't do a bit of good. But that's not anything to do with Mr. Palladino. That's the nature of the beast. You have motorcycle people coming in, 95% of them are good. There are lawyers, there are doctors, there are good people, everyday people that go to this place on a motorcycle. It's only a very few that ruin it for the rest. And I hope that, I'm a little upset not to see 3 selectmen here tonight, because I think this is a very important thing for the town of Acton that should have dealt with 3 selectmen. But I wish the full board would be here to make this decision, how important this decision is. And I hope that this board will make the decision to allow Mr. Palladino to continue in business, and all these other issues with the IRS, with the licensing, with the state. If Mr. Palladino has done wrong, let the state and the federal people deal with that issue. It's not up to this board to deal with that issue. It's up to the state and the federal government. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So,
Make a motion?
to leave the public hearing?
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second. All in favor? All right, I'm going to suggest that instead of taking an action on this tonight, we postpone it until 2 weeks from now, when Ed will have a chance to come back and view the video and see all the new information that we've gotten, and then we can make a vote on that night, which would be, what would the date be? 28th? Okay. And we'll put it on the agenda to take action on this hearing on the 28th. Okay. First reading of dishonored checks policy. 26th?
I have my calendar handy.
Okay, we have a couple of policies here, and we're doing a first reading tonight.
May I be excused?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for staying. Thank you. Good night.
Okay.
We do a first reading tonight. If anybody has any concerns or questions, you can come in and get a copy of it, and then we will be voting on it in 2 weeks, on the 26th.
The Town of Acton dishonored checks policy. This policy describes the processing and collection of dishonored checks. All checks payable to the Town of Acton are processed on the day received. Checks returned from a bank unpaid or dishonored will be subject to fees in accordance with Maine laws. A personal check for less than $2,500, which is dishonored by a bank for non-sufficient funds, will be referred to a third-party collection agency. The agent will attempt to collect the check 3 times and will charge a fee for its services. If unable to collect the check is returned to the treasurer for other methods of collection as described below. Dishonored personal checks for $2,500 or more, and all business checks are returned directly to the treasurer by the bank. A notice of dishonor, Exhibit A, would be sent via certified return receipt mail. Payment is required within 10 days of receipt of the notice. The town will charge a return check fee plus mailing costs for each return check. If payment has not been received within the time specified in the notice, the matter will be reported to the county sheriff's office. All information pertaining to collection will be kept together for future legal proceedings. Other collective steps include motor vehicle registration. The town may notify the Bureau of Motor Vehicles to suspend the registration and confiscate the license plates. Tax payments. In the case of property, real estate supplemental special tax liens have been placed on the property. These taxes will not be considered paid until the full payment has been received by the town. Recreational licenses and registrations. The appropriate state office will be notified to cancel the license or registration. Payments to cover a dishonored check, including fees, will be accepted only in the form of cash, money order, or cashier's check. Partial payment will not be accepted. A receipt will be issued by the town when full payment is received. Do not accept checks list will be maintained naming persons and entities who have given dishonored checks to the town 2 times in a period of 2 years. For the next 4 years, payments from these persons and entities will only be accepted in the form of cash, cashier's check, or money orders. For matters forwarded to the sheriff's office, restitution for a check will not be accepted without the town first contacting the sheriff's office.
Next item is first reading of request for public information. Town of Acton, request for public information policy. Purpose. The following policy adopted by the Board of Selectmen shall be the governing document for all requests for information under the State of Maine Freedom of Access Act. This policy establishes uniform and equitable guidelines for members of the public to obtain public records. There are over 300 statutory exceptions from the Freedom of Access Act, C-22 MRSA 1711-C 2 for details. The public has a right to inspect and copy any public records during the regular business hours of the custodian. Such inspection cannot delay or inconvenience the regular activities of the office having custody of the records sought. The cost of copying a public record shall be paid by the requester. If the requests for information requires research by the town, then all requests shall be submitted in writing to the office manager. A check in the amount of $50 payable to the town of Acton. We're going to put in, so you'll know when Jen can talk to you, at the office manager's discretion. If somebody comes in and asks for one thing that's only going to take them a minute to copy and give it to them, there's no sense asking for a $50 check, so we want to give her the discretion to decide. Somebody comes in and we got to go into the vaults, then we got to charge that $50 down to start that, okay? So she'll talk to you about that. Cash and checks are acceptable. Checks shall be made payable at the town of Acton. Requests will be acted upon within a reasonable period of time after the request was made. The town will not provide advice, interpretation, or reformatting of the requested public record. If any request for information involves staff time to research, investigate, or copy information which is inconvenient to the daily staff activities, the following fee schedule should take effect. Photocopying or electronic town records, 25 cents per page. Deeds, one side, $1.25 per page. Hourly rate shall be charged to the requester. Hourly rate shall be billed to the nearest quarter hour. The hourly rate is determined by adding 33% to the base hourly wage of the employees performing the required research. Salaried employees' hourly rate shall be determined by the following formula. Salary over 52 divided by 40 equals $1.33 hourly rate. If the charge is lower than the deposit of $50, the town of Acton will refund the difference to the requester. The refund will be sent out within 10 days of completion of the request. And then there's a page that you actually fill out to get the information. So the other thing we added was 25 cents paid per page for electronic too, because we still have to do the research, and some people just call up or send an email, and then she can zip it right out to them, but we still have to do that research, so we're going to charge for that too. Okay? All righty. RFP. We have here an RFP. The town had voted for us to borrow $25,000 to fix the windows. An RFP is going out to all the banks in the area to find out what they will give us for an interest rate, and this gives the treasurer permission to give the RFP to the banks and to negotiate a low interest rate. So I will entertain a motion to accept the RFP.
I move that we accept the RFP.
I second it, and all in favor? Okay, the next thing is the assessing contract for O'Donnell's. This is the first year after our reevaluation with O'Donnell's, and we're signing a one-year contract with them to take over the normal assessing, which would be anytime somebody comes to get a building permit and is adding on to their home, or if they come in for an abatement because they don't feel their taxes are right. But this is all completed. The reeval and anybody that was looking for an abatement has been completed. That time is over. So we're starting out with a new year. But I'm going to read you some of the things that they're doing now that we never had before, which is just, it's pretty incredible. We're one of the only towns around here that can do this. They're going to perform field inspections on properties that have been either issued a building permit between April 1st, 2012, and March 31st, 2013, or considered unfinished construction as of April 1st, 2012, or C, identified by the assessors or assessor's agent as needing a field review. The field inspections are intended to verify and/or correct the physical descriptions on the existing property record cards, conduct sales ratio studies, analyze results of the studies to measure equity of current assessments, answer questions from and provide advice to the Board of Assessors on matters involving the assessing function, make recommendations to assessors on ways to improve equity of assessments, review and make recommendations to the assessors on abatement request, assist the Acton Board of Assessment review developing abatement appeals procedure, represent the town on abatement appeals to the Acton Board of Assessment review, note representation of the town on any appeal to a higher level than the Acton Board of Assessment review, e.g. state, for example, State Board of Property Tax Review or Maine Superior Court, or result in additional charges to the town for preparation and defense of the valuation appeal. work in cooperation and advise the Board of Assessors and Assessing Office Clerk to maintain standard operating procedures for the assessing office, work towards instilling public confidence in the operation of the assessing office through courteous treatment of the public and in cooperation with other town employees, establish land valuations for new lots and reprice existing lots that have changed on the maps, meet with the assessor to discuss overlay appropriation commitment and set tax rate, complete the municipal valuation return for submittal to the Bureau of Taxation by November 1st, calculate and assess tree growth withdrawal permits, assist with reimbursement applications, the Homestead Act, scan real estate transfer tax forms and building permits 4 times per fiscal year, maintain the company's assessing software and provide support to the town staff using of the assessing software. The company will invoice the town for $1,000 in July each year. Maintain an assessment database information on the company website. If you go to o'donnells.com, they have all of the assessing information for everybody in Acton. Update names and addresses, usually utilizing date from town's trio tax billing. Update valuation information. They've just done some incredible things. If you haven't looked online, what they've done since this reevaluation, what's available to you, it's also saved us a lot of time here in the office, because now when real estate agents want to look at land, or they have a buyer for land, they don't have to come in and have us do it all by paper. They can just look it up, type in the person's name, the lot number, whatever, the pictures come up, the evaluation, prior year's evaluation, then they get the maps online that hook into it too, so you can see exactly where the house is, what houses are abutting. It's incredible stuff that they've done in the last year and a half. So, I entertain a motion to sign the contract.
I move that we sign the contract.
I'll second it, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, appointments. We have 2 appointments. One is for Dwight Vanell. We forgot him in our last appointments when we were doing all the people that wanted to stay on. So the Selectmen of the Municipality of Acton do in accordance with the provisions of the laws of the state of Maine, hereby appoint Dwight Vanell as a planning board member with and for the municipality of Acton until June 30th, 2015. Entertain the motion?
I move that we accept the application for
Nomination, appointment
appointment of selectmen, oh, no,
No, it's appointment of Chip Vanell, Dwight Vanell.
Dwight Vanell to be a planning board member.
I second it, all in favor? All right, and this one's a correction. We had a misspelling on Gavin Maloney, so we have to appoint him again with the proper spelling. So I'll make a motion, we appoint Gavin Maloney to the planning board as an alternate member until June 30th, 2013.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, other business. Anybody have anything?
Jack Kelly, co-chair of the Acton Town Road Committee. During the town meeting, David Cody was elected to the Town Road Committee, and my understanding is that he does not want to belong to the committee.
We have not heard that. He has not come and told us that.
I talked to Lorraine, and she was waiting for a letter, and I was just
No,
wondering...
he has to get in touch with the town clerk and let her know, because it's an elected position.
Right,
So we cannot
right.
do anything until Mr. Cody comes in and says, yes, I want the job, or no, I don't.
Okay, that was just my question.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, we had come in and had a meeting with you on May 1st, asked some questions about who could call road committee meetings. The answer came back on June 6th from MMA, and I didn't receive it till tonight. In the future, I'd like to get correspondence a little
I
quicker.
apologize for that. Larissa was your liaison, and I thought she had given it to you guys before she left, and I just found out the other day that she had not. So I apologize for that, and your new liaison is Ed Walsh.
I understand that,
So
yeah.
Ed will make sure, when you guys have a request, they get to Bill and I, the 3 of us will talk about it. If you want something from MMA, we'll do that, and then Ed will get it back to you.
Okay.
So I apologize.
Does David Cody have to contact you, or
He
you're
has
going to
he has
contact him?
No, he has to come and talk to Jennifer. She's the one that would be swearing him in.
Okay.
Because he is, the selectmen didn't appoint him, he was voted in. So
Right.
it goes through our voting office instead, so the selectmen don't have anything to
Okay,
do
because
with it.
I know that Lorraine had talked to him on the phone, because she called me afterwards, and he was supposed to send a letter in.
We haven't received it.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? All right, Town's Clerk Office will be closing at 3 PM on Friday, July 20th, which is next week. I don't know if you folks know it or not, but, Jen's the only one that can work in that office now that our former deputy had moved on to Sanford. Jennifer is the only one in there. And now, of course, with Lorraine being out, it's been pretty difficult. Jen's been working a lot of hours, and she's just asking for a little bit of time off so she can watch her son do a show and a fair. We're having a real hard time giving her any kind of a break, so we're looking into that right now, getting somebody in there to get trained up so that she can take some time off. The problem is it takes almost 2 years to get somebody trained to have all the credentials that Jennifer has to run that office, because there's so much that goes on in there with privacy and registrations and, people's personal information and everything else. And so in state licensing with every department, you have to have a license from the motor vehicle, you have to have a license from the fish and game and all these other things. So it's going to take us 2 years to get somebody up to where Jennifer can actually take some time off. So from time to time, when she requests it and wants a couple hours off here and there, we're going to give it to her so that we do not burn her out, because she is amazing. All right, you have anything?
Nope.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor? Thank you, folks.